Good morning, everyone. This is Mike, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, we are going to be looking at using multiple parameter sets in PowerShell scripts. So the topic of this video came about because of a particular question I got when doing a PowerShell scripting class a little while ago. So the base here that we're going to be looking at is one of the demos in the PowerShell scripting and toolmaking class, where you query a remote computer to get group information from it. So I have done a couple videos on how to put that script together. If you check out my Build a Script series, there is a part 1 and a part 2 on querying local group membership from a remote PC. And the script that we're going to be starting from today, if I bring up my lab environment here, is basically where I left that at the end of the part 2 video. All right, so that's where we're going to be starting here. So if you're not familiar, first of all, with what parameter sets are, we're going to do a little primer on that, and then we're going to add a lot more detail into this to see the kind of the cool functionality that you can get when you are going to do multiple parameter sets, right? So that's going to be what we're going to be looking at today. So if you guys want to play along at home, check out that last part 1 and part 2 series I did in my Build a Script series. And there is a download to get this starter script if you want to begin where I'm going to be beginning at here. Okay. And so before I get into this, allow me right up front to say I do appreciate all the comments, people subscribing to my channel. It is greatly appreciated. And if some of you are watching and have not subscribed yet, I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe to my channel. Every little bit helps as I'm trying to grow this out to be able to add more content, not just into PowerShell, but into other areas as well. I would like to expand more into talking about clients, some Azure stuff, things along those lines. So if you could, please give me a subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything up front, and I would greatly appreciate it. Okay, so let's get into the material here. All right, so for those of you that may not be familiar with the concept here of what parameter sets do, parameter sets allow me to be able to control which particular parameters are used when you're calling a function, commandlet, or script. Okay, so you see them in a lot of other areas within PowerShell. Like for instance, if I look at the help on maybe a command like get event log, I can see there's a grouping of parameters here, right? Then we got a blank line and then a grouping of parameters here. Okay, now what is this basically doing here? Well, when you have different parameter sets, what it's basically signifying is which parameters can be used together when you are running a commandlet function or a script. So in this case, you're looking for the stuff that's unique in each of them. So if I look at this grouping of parameters down here, I can see that list is at least one of the unique ones down here. And notice like log name, instance ID, newest, after, before, those are all unique in this top parameter set, right? So what it basically means is you can only use the parameters from a parameter set when you're running a command. Right? So if I'm running a commandlet, a function, a script, I have to stick with the parameters that are part of a single parameter set each time I run the code. So if I'm running get event log, I could either use this set of parameters or I could use this set of parameters. Right? Now, some of them do actually appear in both. Like if you notice computer name here, okay, it does appear in both. Okay, so for instance here, I could run get event log name system, and let me just do newest so I don't just like scroll the whole screen here. But notice that works. And I could also do get event log list. That works as well. But if I were to try to combine them together, like so, notice it doesn't like that because this parameter is in one parameter set and this parameter is in a different parameter set. So I cannot use them together when I am running a commandlet, at least this particular commandlet. So how does that apply with my script here that I had made for querying local group memberships from computers? Well, the first thought here was with this script, you're feeding it a computer name. Right? So let's say we always wanted it to be able to do that, right? So we feed it a computer name, and that should work perfectly fine, right? So again, the script here, I think I'm calling it groups one computer name, and we'll just query another computer in my lab environment here, right? So that works. Now the concept of what I did here was I created a parameter set for these two other parameters, template file and screen output, so that I could make them be mandatory. So basically, if I used one of these parameters, I'm basically using this parameter set, and this other parameter is mandatory in that parameter set. So I'm like tying them together. Because if you're going to alter the screen output, so if you're going to use mode, if you're going to use the mode parameter to something other than screen output, which is its default, if you wanted to use make template or compare, I need a template file to also be specified. So these two are grouped together in that way. Okay, so that's kind of what I did here where I left off from the previous video. And with computer name, I did not specify any parameter sets for it. So what that means is it belongs to all of them. Okay, so basically I could use computer name on its own, or I could use it with template file and mode. Right? And you could actually see that if you pull the help on the script. So if I just do a help on my group script here, you can see again, doesn't look as fancy as like the help with other commandlets because I haven't built anything into that. But you could see there's one parameter set which has just computer name in it, and then here's the other parameter set which includes template file, mode, and computer name. All right. And help is actually reading it right. It's got the brackets correct for template file and mode. It's seeing them both as mandatory parameters. All right. So basically what that means, again, if I'm doing this, if I call maybe, change the mode to something else, like maybe compare, and just hit enter, notice it'll prompt me for the template file. All right, so I need to specify that. And if I go the other way on it and specify template file, I know, test.xml, notice if I hit enter, it'll prompt me for the mode. Right? So I'm making sure that the correct parameters get used each time, let's say we're running the script. Right? So that's where we kind of left off with this. Now, in one of my classes, a student who also is named Mike asked, well, what if I want to pipe Active Directory computer objects in? What if I wanted to use that, right? So instead of a computer name, I wanted to use an Active Directory computer object, something along those lines, right? So with that, we kind of throw the script on its I don't know, on its head a little bit here. Because we do have to accommodate for, let's say, some more information now. Right? So if we want to add, let's say, support for an Active Directory computer object to be able to be used instead, I kind of got to alter how the parameter block works, right? Because if I'm working with an AD computer object, that's a different kind of object, right? So computer name takes a string object, right? So that's what it's working with. And if we wanted to, let's say, be able to do um, Active Directory objects, again, that would be a different type of object. Right? So, like for instance, if I do something like get AD computer, and let's maybe do identity client 2, okay, that comes back, but again, pipe it to get member, it's a different kind of object. Okay. Now, granted, that object does happen to have, like a name property or a DNS host name that is in string, that is a string object itself. Okay. But the actual, running this, produces an AD computer object. Okay. So, and that's obviously going to be handled differently than how we might be handling a string object. Right. So we have some, let's say if I wanted to do, either here. Okay, so first thing here, we would need to add pipeline support into this script. So that way I could pipe something in. Okay, so at the moment, again, I'm working with, the only way I'm getting computer names in is on the computer name parameter using string. Okay, so let's say I wanted that to accept pipeline input. So I could use a parameter element here, just like we did, like here in here. So you could use this parameter. I always call it a parameter element. It might be an attribute or whatever. Method, who knows? The proper name of it, I always call it like an element, like I don't know, like XML or something. But anyway, so inside parameter, we are going to allow computer name to accept pipeline input. So that means I need to throw an argument in here of value from pipeline. Right? You could also do the equal true, but again, just using the argument sets it to true. Right? So I'll just leave that as that. So value from pipeline. So what that's going to allow now is for string objects from the pipeline to be able to be piped in. And then in the body of your script, you need another looping construct. You need a process block that will loop once for each object that was piped in. Right? So in this case, I want my whole script to loop for each object that was piped in. So let me bring that back over to here, tab it in. All right. So that way my tab depths still look the same. And if you want to put a little comment down here, close process. Okay, now you could also, outside of process, you could have an end block, which would be code that you wanted to run after the pipeline data was processed. And then you could also have a begin block, which would be code you want to run before the pipeline data was processed. Right? So basically the way the process block works is that for each object in the pipeline, the process block loops once. Right? So if there's 5 objects in the pipeline, the process block would loop 5 times. If there's 1 object in the pipeline, it loops once. Okay? Now for my purposes, I don't need a begin block, so I'm going to get rid of that. And I don't need an end block. I'm going to get rid of that. All right. So that should allow me now to be able to pipe in string objects from the pipeline. All right. So let's test that out. So let's say in our location here, c:\demo, let's make a text file. We'll just call it names, and in it we'll just put maybe a couple computer names. So let's do client 2 and DC1. All right. And then see if we could pipe those in. All right, so if I do dir, so there's my names.txt. Okay, so let's grab the data out of that. So let's do get content names.txt and should be able to pipe that over to my script. And The input object cannot be bound to any parameters for the command, either because the command does not take pipeline. Okay. Oh, it does help if I actually save the changes to my script. That's kind of key there. So sorry about that. Let's try that again. All right, there we go. So it got information from client 2 and it got information from DC1. All right. Now, looking at local groups on DC1 is probably not the best approach to this. It's a domain controller, probably not good. But anyway, but it did work, right? So we were able to pipe data in. Now, notice though, if I try to do the Active Directory thing, the Active Directory object, and pipe that over to groups, it's not going to like that. Okay, so we haven't added support for that in yet. Okay. So it's not that hard to do. So we would need, again, another parameter. So we could go put that in here. So that's going to need to be an Active Directory object. So let's go run this and pipe it to get member because this is the object type that's going to be coming in. All right, so we'll go add that into our code. And then I need to call this something, so maybe dollar about AD comp. Let's call it that. All right. So that now presents another parameter. All right. Now, with it, we would now need to specify some things here, right? Because the way that I want this to work is either this has information coming in, like I have 80 computer objects, or I have computer names. So this parameter is accepting this type of object, and this parameter is accepting strings. Right? So we have that we need to kind of I don't know, wrap our heads around, if you will. And so we also need to think about how we want to present this. Okay. So first of all, we're going to be piping computer names in. So that means they're going to be coming in from the pipeline, right? So let's go grab this line right here, and we're going to go add it onto here, right? So we have this this value from pipeline for this type of object. So you are able to do that, by the way. You are able to do that. You could have multiple different kinds of objects coming in from the pipeline as long as you have a parameter that will accept that kind of object. So computer name would be taking strings from the pipeline, and AD comp would be taking this stuff from the pipeline. All right. So now within the script, if this, so basically if you look at the body of the script, the rest of the script is set up for something to be in $computer name. All right. So every other piece of code in here is hinging on that. So if someone supplies something here, I need to, the easiest way to kind of make this work is to take the data from here and get it into here. Okay. So take whatever's in AD comp and put it in computer name. Now remember though, computer name is string, AD comp is an AD computer object. So I cannot take the AD computer object as whole and put it inside of a string. I just can't do that. So what I need to do is I need to get the data out of one of its properties that's that's a string object already. So with an AD computer, you're probably set up for doing either name, that would be like the short name for the computer, like DC1 client 2, or DNS host name, that would be the name of the computer and the DNS name also tacked onto it. So like in my environment, it would be like dc1.chassitac.com, something like that. Okay, so if you want to include the rest of the DNS, all right? So I'll probably, just for simplicity's sake, just go with name. So I'll grab the data out of the name property, which is a string object itself. All right. So how am I going to do that? Well, probably the easiest way to do it is down in the process, check to see if something is in that parameter, right? And that could be done as simple as just like an if. So maybe if $AD comp, come on, $AD comp is not equal to null. It's probably the easiest way to check. There's fancier ways to do it, but that's probably the easiest. And then what we'll do is we'll put something in computer name, $computer name equals $AD comp dot name. Right? Let's do something like that. All right. So we'll put that in play, and let's see now if we could pipe an AD computer object in. So here's the computer object piped over to our script. All right. And what do you know? That worked. All right. So cool. So we added support in for that. Now, now let's say though, someone got a little daring and they decided, you know what? I also want to supply my own computer name here on $computer name, right? Using computer name parameter. So this data piping in is going to go to the AD comp parameter, and then I'm manually specifying a computer name over here, DC1. And notice client 2 worked. It totally ignored DC1. Now, why is that? Well, this had data in it and this had data in it. But when we got down to this very first line, we took the AD computer info and put it into computer name, blowing out what was already there. Okay, so I suppose you could potentially add it in. So that way, either one could potentially be used, but that kind of, it may not give the best results in the world. Right? Um, so what we what we want here from the scenario is I want either this parameter to be used or this parameter to be used, but never both together. Okay, so that's again where we want the multiple parameter sets kind of happening here. Okay? Now, in order to be able to do that, we are going to need probably a few more parameter sets to make this happen, right? Because the way that it was set up before, I used parameter sets just to basically make two parameters on their own linked to each other to make them mandatory. And I had a fake default parameter set name, so that way I could just run computer name on its own without having to use either of these. All right, so again, if that concept's not clear with everybody, maybe go back and watch part 2 of my build a script series for this, creating, how to query local group membership from a remote computer. All right. So that's kind of the concept here of why I had a default parameter set name of nothing. It's so I could use computer name on its own, or use computer name with template file and mode together. Right? So now with adding the AD computer object, I've kind of thrown uh, things into confusion a bit here. Okay, because so here's what's happening. So let me pull up a separate file here. So I've got a computer name parameter, right? I have a template file parameter, and I have a mode parameter, and I just added an AD comp, right? So those are my four parameters. Now, what I want is I need to be able to use them grouped particular ways. So for instance here, I need to be able to do, come on here. I need to be able to run computer name, template file, and mode together. I need to be able to run computer name on its own. And I need to do AD comp and AD comp with these, right? So computer name on its own, computer name combined with template file and mode, AD comp on its own, and AD comp combined with mode and template file. Okay, so that's what we want. Right. So in order to make that happen, notice one, two, three, four different groupings of parameters. So that kind of sounds like I'm going to need four different parameter sets. All right. So at the moment, I don't have that, right? So I have just basically one. Okay, computer name belongs to everything, and template file and mode belong to a parameter set name called template. So basically, I have one and like a half, if you will. Okay, and I need four separate ones. All right, so that's what we need to accommodate for here. All right. And we need to pick one to be the default. So if someone just runs the script with no parameters supplied at all, which set do I want them to be prompted to use? So in my eyes, I'm thinking I want them to use computer name. All right, so that's the one I'm going to want them to use. Okay. So now, what do we want to call these? So how about this one? We'll just leave it, we'll call it PC. That'll be its parameter set name. This one, maybe we'll do, how about PC template? This one down here, I'll call AD. And then this one here, we'll call AD template. All right. So those will be the four parameter sets that we're going to use. All right. So we've got PC, PC template, AD template, and AD. All right. So now you notice um, each of these parameters now belongs to multiple parameter sets, but not all of them. Okay, that's what kind of makes this one interesting, right? So before, like you take computer name, because I didn't specify a parameter set here, that this parameter belongs to all of them, right? So that's not the case that we have now. So the AD comp parameter belongs to two, belongs to this one and this one. Mode belongs to two, belongs to this one and this one, right? So each parameter belongs to two parameter sets, but it does not, none of them belong to all of them. Okay, so that makes it a little more of a challenge here. Okay, so how are we going to code our way around this? Well, you can have more than one parameter element for a given parameter. Okay, so basically just a parameter element is just a collection of arguments that you want to supply. So you can have multiple of those if you wanted to do that. All right. So let's first of all start with computer name. All right. So it needs to belong to a parameter set name called PC. All right. So let's steal this line of code right here. And we're going to come up into that parameter element and we're going to put that in there. So parameter set name equals PC. And I'm going to make that one my default. Right? So we have that, right? So it's taking from the pipeline, parameter set name PC. I should probably also make it mandatory. Mandatory equals, actually, let's just do mandatory, right? So remember, you could also do mandatory equals true, but it's just kind of extra, right? It's extra fluff. So just by using the word mandatory, that's good enough, right? So that's fine there. So that gets computer name belonging to that parameter set. So that again, that would be kind of it on its own. Right. So by setting that as the default and making that mandatory, I'm kind of in flux here. I don't know if this will work or not, but if I just run the script on its own, let's run the script on its own, it should prompt me. Yeah, there we go. So it is prompting me for computer name. So I throw client 2 and away we go. Okay, so that got that part done. Now I also though need a grouping of computer name with template file and mode. All right, so with that, we're going to need another collection of arguments. So again, I can duplicate this. In fact, just to kind of make it look like it's actually separated out, let me take this part and just put it on its own line. This is still considered one parameter. So all I'm going to do is just duplicate this line because I still want it to accept pipeline input and all of that. Except this time I need another parameter element and we'll specify, what did I say? PC template. So we'll do PC dash template. All right, and we'll put that in there. Okay, so now I also need to make this parameter and this parameter also be a part of that. Right, so we need another parameter element here. So let's see. Okay. So first of all, template file belongs to the PC template parameter set, right? And actually, I could do that one right here as well, PC template, right? So we have that, right? So now, if we go ahead and run this, PC could be used with I'm sorry, the computer name parameter could be used with mode and template file because again, they're all part of the same parameter set. All right, so we have that now available to work with. All right. Okay, so keeping it, let's see here. So putting in the rest, let's see. So 80 comp, I need it. We did value from pipeline. I probably also want it to be mandatory, right? Do I want it mandatory? And let's try it without. Okay, let's say for the most part, the data is going to be piped in, right? So that doesn't really make mandatory, if you will. So let's try it without. So let's do value from pipeline, and we'll do parameter set name equals, and what did we want to call this one? Was it AD, I think? Yeah, AD, right? So that will exist on its own, but it also needs to exist in AD template. So we'll add that one in. All right. And both usages of the parameter I want to allow from objects from the pipeline. All right. So let's see. So we have AD template, so that should also be used up here. All right. And one more. There we go. Okay, so that should have everybody set here who needs to be set. Right? So I have the PC set, okay, which has just computer name on its own. I have the AD parameter set, which has just the AD comp parameter. And AD comp also belongs to AD template, which includes here and here. So that's template file and mode. And then computer name also belongs to PC template, which includes here and here, which again, template file and mode. All right, so let's save this. And first of all, let's try just opening up the help on my script and notice 4 lines, right? Because there's 4 parameter sets. So computer name on its own, computer name, template file, and mode, AD computer on its own, and AD computer with mode and template file. All right, so that has those listed out. Okay, so first of all, let's see if we just run the script on its own. All right, we get computer name, right? So it did prompt me for that. Let's see if I could just put a computer name in there and have it work. Okay, cool. So now let's do get 80 computer, right? And piping in a computer object. Oop. Okay, so something happened there. Get 80 computer, client 2. So one or more computer names are not valid if you're trying to pass. Okay, so let's see if I just kind of messed anything up here. Typos are always fun. All right, so let's see. So we had that. Um, let's see. That might have messed up. I'll tell you what. Let's go and make that mandatory. All right, so I'll throw the mandatory argument in there, and let's try this again. Okay, there we go. All right, so that allows me to pipe the computer name in. Let's see, let's do get content names.text, pipe that into the script, and that also works as well. Now, let's try the scenario where you have an AD computer piping in and a computer name specified there. And say notice input object cannot be bound to any parameters for the command, either because the command doesn't take pipeline or so basically what that's warning you about is we couldn't use both of those parameters together. All right. That would be like the same thing. Let's maybe take dollar $80 equals get 80 computer identity client 2, and let's kind of run the script here. Computer name DC1 80 comp $80. All right. See how they cannot be used together, right? So computer name and 80 comp, no go there. All right. So now just to kind of finish the thought here. So let's say we have the computer name. Let's do client 2. Let's do mode. How about make template and template file? Let's just call this call it maybe out1.xml. Okay, so that made the template file. That was out1. There it is right there. And then let's also pipe in get 80 computer client 2, piping it over to our groups, mode, make template, and template file. How about out2.xml? And that worked as well. So, let me see. Yep, and there's out2. All right. And there is actually like, good data in there, I'm thinking. Right. Oop, hold on there, Internet Explorer. Yes, it does have client 2 information in there. That's cool. So that one worked. And out1, yep, that one has good information in it as well. All right, cool. So that is kind of a neat little scenario here where you are specifying the multiple parameter sets. Okay, so I don't see too many other samples of this online where you're actually specifying different like whole parameter like sections here, and you can do that, right? You could have different parameter arguments as long as they're in different sets when you are using a parameter. So if I want it to be mandatory sometimes and not another, again, that could be different parameter set names if you wanted to do that. All right, so anyway, now the one caveat here, so this is basically where the script sits at the moment here. But let's say And this is good, right? This is finished. But let's say though um, you wanted to, I don't know, maybe cut down a bit on the functionality, right? What I mean by that is the way that this script works. And again, I covered this in one of my Build a Script series videos where I talk about creating a module. At the moment, for this script to be able to run, it needs to know what this object is. And that object is only known if the Active Directory module is loaded into PowerShell, right? So basically here, if I closed PowerShell and opened up another one and just ran the script, I think it's in demo. Let's see. Yeah. So if I just run the script, it doesn't like it because it doesn't know what that object is. All right. So basically, like the Active Directory module has to be loaded before the script can run. Now, to some people, that might be perfectly fine, right? So if you want to make kind of like a profile script or something that just does like an import module Active Directory, you could do that, and then script will run fine, right? Because the script block, the parameter section here is, looking for this object, and that object is not loaded as a .NET assembly until like the Active Directory module is loaded, is imported. So that could be potentially an issue, right? So how could I potentially get around that? Well, so basically the way that this is set up right here, I have computer name accepting pipeline input and I have AD comp accepting pipeline input. So I have two types of objects coming in from the pipeline. So therefore I have to pay attention to which kind of object goes where. Okay, so strings over here, and AD computer objects over here. So if you wanted to, you could kind of help the script out a bit here by not only allowing one type of pipeline input. So let's say like in the design here. So let me go ahead and copy this. Let's do a Control C. Let's put this in a new script and we'll call this, let's do save as, let's do demo, and we'll call it groups 2, just for lack of anything else, right? So groups 2. Okay, so now I would like to make this so this can run without having the Active Directory module be loaded. Right? So let's say, again, that's what I want to have happen, right? Okay, so in order to do this, what I need to do is I need to take computer name and make it not accept pipeline input. So where you see value from pipeline, I'm just going to wipe that out. All right, so we'll do that, and we'll do that. Okay, so now computer name is not taking anything from the pipeline. So now what I could do down here is I can make AD computer take any object from the pipeline, like so. Right, so what does AD computer take? Objects from the pipeline, which again I would assume are going to be AD computer objects. Again, I'm making assumptions here, but again, when you're making the script, maybe that's how it's going to work in your environment. So now, with that being the case, let's Control C this and go run the script. So this is group 2. So it still prompts for computer name, so let's make sure that works. All right, and let's try piping in get AD computer, and then pipe that over to groups 2, and notice that works as well. Now, what is interesting though, if I close the PowerShell session and start from scratch, I start one from scratch, you'll notice that I could run the script, okay, and without the Active Directory module loaded. Okay. Now, obviously, you would need it to get an 80 computer object if you wanted to do that. But notice I could run the script all day long using computer name, and I don't need the AD module, okay, for piping in Active Directory computer objects. Okay, but again, what I had to make that work, if I go grab my names file and try to pipe that in to the new version of the script here, again, it's not going to work. All right. So I had to sacrifice something so that any object, in the pipeline is going to be sent kind of over to here. All right. So that concept is used in other commandlets, by the way. Like if you look at the help on maybe like sort object, right? The data coming in, see how it accepts objects, all right? So the property parameter accepts objects from the pipeline. Right. So anyway, so that's one way you could potentially make it so that you could run the script without having that reliance on the Active Directory module. Okay. So again, so like this would be with that reliance, right? So notice computer name and AD comp accepting that exact object. So again, with this, the Active Directory module would have to be loaded ahead of time. Or this solution where it's just doing computer name. I removed the pipeline support, so strings could not be piped in, and made it so only AD comp could accept objects coming in from the pipeline. All right. So either way, those are the two different variants there. Um, so if you wanted to check those out, I'll upload those to the download site that I use for all the scripts. If you look in the description on the video, I'll have those available. All right. So with that, so that is using multiple parameter sets and some other tricks to go along with it: pipeline input, objects, all of that fun stuff. So if you enjoyed this, consider giving a like and a subscribe, please. And we will see you in the next video. So have a good one, everyone.